What's up, guys? It's Yellowfin99, and so I am going to be going through some of my recommendations for commons and uncommons to keep. So for part 1, I'm going to just do commons, and then like the next video, which will probably come out tomorrow, will be uncommons, because I had a request to make this vid, so I'm going to do it because nothing really interesting is happening in top drives right now. There's the qualifiers. Oh, I guess an event's ending, so I guess you get to see me open an aluminum, I think? Yeah, an aluminum, okay. So, maybe I can get a super rare from this. An ultra rare would be really nice, but the chances of that happening are very low. Ooh, that Mustang. I think that was a Mustang. Oh, slingshot, nice. And, oh, Atlas, I'll take it. Okay. Well, I got a super rare from my aluminum, so there we go. Okay, what was that one car? Now I kind of want to know. Oh yeah, it was a Mustang, Ford Mustang Cobra. So I might keep a third slingshot and the Mustang Cobra, and I'm also going to keep that. So that was actually, I'd say, a fairly good aluminum pack. But here we go. My recommendations for common cars in top drives. Here we go. So first off, I'm just going to point out any cars that either I've had good experience with or that I know have been good. Because I'm not really a person to keep tons and tons of commons, because I don't really see the use for keeping very many commons. Like, some of the meta ones are good to have, but so I'm going to be going through all the commons that I would say would be useful to have in your garage. So far, I mean, this one was a prize car, so the chances of getting it aren't very good, aren't going to happen, but it is a very useful one. If you do have it, I would suggest using it a bit more, because it is a great RQ saver. 9.5 seconds, 0 to 60, and 73 handling. This one also, just because I have it, I mean, it does have pretty good stats, plus it's medium for an RQ10. Other cars that, I mean, this one might be good to keep just because of that low 0 to 60. But otherwise, looking so far, I mean, I used to have the 8V. I'm not really sure if it was very useful though. Its 0 to 60 wasn't too great when I maxed it out, so I don't really think you need to keep one. This car, though, is a definite keeper. Everyone should at least have one of these in their garage just because of the low 0 to 60. I'm working on maxing out one right now. Okay, none of these other cars I've really had very much experience with, or like that I've kept. This one, though, I'm pretty sure I kept it once and it was pretty decent. It wasn't too bad, but I'm not really a person that would keep a ton of commons. I don't really think you need very many commons. As long as you have a few good ones, you should be fine. This car is actually pretty good. I'm pretty sure it hits 8.575 maxed. And it's actually a really, if you don't have that alpha I just said, this is also a really useful one, for low RQ savers. Because usually when they do Italian events, they don't want you to use a bunch of legendary Lambos or stuff. So having one decent low RQ Italian car, if you want to go very low, in clubs, then this car would actually be a good one because it doesn't really ever seem to lose very many points. Then other cars, the Chrysler Town & Country, this car is pretty decent. I don't think you really need to keep it though. I more just kept it because I like the car. But anything else I see over here? Nothing else I really see. This one I know is good and I'm going to keep it next time I get it. So it's actually a pretty good car. Pontiac Firebird is a great car. This is one I would totally recommend. I have it in my garage. It's very useful. I use it all the time, and it wins tons of races for 13 RQ. It is a great car to have. Okay. Any other commons that I've had experience with that I know that are good? I know this car is good, the Lotus 7. It's a great car, lightweight. Oh, very lightweight. Was that 387? Plus also standard tires with decent handling for a common. So that's a pretty good one. Also this one from the new update, the Ford Tempo, it's actually pretty decent. I wouldn't say go out of your way to keep one, but I mean, if you're looking for a car to max out to have for a common project, the Ford Tempo is a pretty good one. I think it gets 9,474 for 0 to 60 in handling, which isn't too bad for a common. Plus it's medium and also standard tires. So it's a decent car for saving RQ in clubs. Citroen Mahari, I don't really think you really need to keep one, because I beat most of them with just regular standard tire cars. The only thing the Mahari I think really does good on is maybe hill climb, but I'm pretty sure it also doesn't even finish hill climb. So I think the only thing it's really good at is slalom, and that's if it's rainy dirt or snow. So I don't really think you need to keep a Mahari. I've never kept a Mahari, and I've never felt like I needed to keep a Mahari. But any other cars I see here, this one is pretty decent because it's lightweight. It does do pretty good in off-road, like slalom, when you're using common cars, because it weighs pretty much nothing, 725, and it gets decent handling, but it isn't one that you need to go out of your way to keep. This one also is pretty good, but just because I have experience with it, because I'm not really the best person that, I'm not the best person, I'm not the person that keeps tons of commons for it, but these are all cars that I've found pretty useful in clubs, that if you want to keep a few commons, that'll help you out a bit. This one's also a good one I'd suggest. This car I remember I used to have, I think it was pretty good, but I don't really remember too much. Anything else here that looks too good? This one I had maxed out, except I think its handling got nerfed, because I thought it went to like 7.979, but there's no way 67 goes up to 79, so it must have got nerfed when I didn't have it. This car, though, I would suggest, this car I know is a good one to keep. It gets 8.979, I'm pretty sure maxed. I don't know, I'll check the stats of all the maxed out cars they have later, after I'm done like looking through all these. But yeah, this one is one I'd suggest to keep, definitely. Like, this one you should go out of your way to get the maxed out, because it's a great car. It's helped me a lot, and it seems pretty useful. Chrysler Drifter, the 0 to 60 seems pretty good. I haven't kept it, and I haven't really ever needed it, plus it's Australian, so you might not really ever get to use it that much, unless it's like only common performance times 5, and clubs rarely ever has an event that needs you to have rear wheel drive. So this car actually looks to be not too bad. The 72 handling looks pretty promising, so if I pull it, I'm gonna keep the car, because it doesn't look too bad. This car is a good one. I think it hits 6.9 something, 66 I think actually now. So that 0 to 60 is pretty good, plus it has not too bad top speed, so it's actually a pretty good car to have. Now this car, if you were able to get it, this one's actually very useful. It does really well, surprisingly. For a car from 1954, it performs insanely well on off-road. Like off-road twisty road, off-road slalom, off-road basically anything. This car actually beats a ton of other cars for not having traction control or ABS. But it somehow does it. Like, it somehow does it really well, plus it has very high top speed, so it's pretty useful. I have one at 323 and one at 332, because I was able to get 2 of them. But so any other cars I noticed that have been useful, I know the Twizy's a pretty good one to have for slalom, wet slalom. Only wet slalom, you don't really want one for dry slalom. Suzuki Liana is also pretty good when in clubs as common performance, and then Japanese cars times 2. This is a pretty good one to have because it gets up to 81 handling maxed. Any other cars that I have experience with? Because the only really spots you're gonna need commons is in clubs. Like, you really don't need to keep commons unless you're planning on playing a ton of clubs. Like, that's the only reason you would really need to keep like a pretty decent or pretty strong common collection. Otherwise, the only really cars you need is probably the Firebird, maybe that BMW, like the Dragster BMW, and I mean, I've never really otherwise used, and I guess that 10RQ Alpha I've used, and that 13RQ Alpha, but those I wouldn't suggest you need to have. I just use them because I have 2 Leggy Lambos, which I like to use in events, so I go very low then with a common. But really, the only car you'd really need so far that I've seen is that Firebird. Unless you're planning to play clubs a bunch, then I would suggest maybe keeping a few of these ones that I've said, because they've helped me a lot in clubs. This one's a pretty good one. It has medium ground clearance. It gets up to 81 handling. Plus, it's got decent top speed. For 17RQ, it's a pretty decent car to have. It's helped me out a bit. Any other cars? This one's a good one just because of its high top speed. But that's basically it. It's only really for clubs. Honda Beat also is a good one, too, to keep with your Firebird. Like, if you're not planning on playing a bunch of clubs, then you might want to, you still probably should keep a Honda Beat anyway, just because it gets up to 85 handling. Because Hutch never really seems to do low RQ events that often, where even a common would be useful. This car is a pretty good one, 4-wheel drive performance. It will lose a bit of the time to regular standard tire cars, so it's one if you want for clubs. For rainy, it's pretty good. This one's a good one too to keep. Like this one you also maybe should keep if you're not planning on playing clubs. Like this one's good like all around. It's got decent MRA, I'm pretty sure. I'm not sure what it is, but it does accelerate after it hits 60. So it does keep going, just like at a steady pace. Plus it's a pretty good drag car. Gets down to like 7 point something. I don't know, we'll see in a second. And any other things that have been really useful? This one's a pretty good dragster. I've never kept it though, so I'm not really sure how good it is. Opel Gt, I've still been looking for this car. It's actually a really good one. Hits 84 handling for a common, which is pretty high. Plus its performance tires, sadly it's low, but I mean that makes sense. It looks low even in the picture. But it's also pretty lightweight, 970. So this one's also one I would suggest to keep. And these two right here, the Volkswagen New Beetle Cabriolet and the Vauxhall Tigra Twin Top. Also two pretty useful cars that I've found some use out of in clubs. And then there should be the other one. This one I know is a pretty good car. I've never kept it though. But it has 85 handling maxed, I do know that. Chrysler Imperial I found to be pretty useful in clubs, but you don't really need to go out of your way to keep one. Where is my car? There it is. This one. The Volkswagen Up. It is pretty decent. It beats the Volkswagen Beetle Cabriolet everywhere. So it's really useful when clubs has the common and then German ×2, which they do seem to do that requirement now a bit. Also, this one is pretty good too. I haven't ever pulled it, but I will keep it if I do, because 76 handling stock looks pretty promising. Plus, also this car, I missed out on getting it, but I think it hits 6.9 maxed out. So if you do have this one's also a pretty decent dragster. But yeah, so I mean, I would suggest for if you're planning to keep commons, the only reason you'll need commons is if you want to if you want to play clubs. If you want to play clubs, then you might want to keep some commons. Otherwise, you don't really need to keep very many. Commons are more like if you just like the car, then you can keep it. But only commons I'd really suggest keeping if you don't play any clubs would be Ford Mustang 2 King Cobra, Honda Beat, Mercedes-Benz 600 is also a pretty good one. And I'd suggest at least keeping one low RQ Italian car. Like any low RQ Italian car works. This is just the one that I picked. And it's been pretty useful, 8.676. It's gonna have 60% win ratio for being an RQ saver half the time. Is pretty not bad. Also, Pontiac Firebird and the GMC Caballero Diablo. Those are the cars that I'd suggest if you don't plan on playing clubs. If you do plan on playing clubs, then any of these, like some of these ones are pretty decent. Ford Tempo's a good one, same with the VW Passat. These cars are both pretty good if you max them out and use them on the off-road. They're actually not bad. BMW 507's a pretty good one if you max it out for drags. And these three right here are all great cars for the off-road. I mean, not the off-road, for rain. They're all pretty good cars. Same with these two, will be useful from time to time when playing common events and clubs. But yeah, that's my recommendations for if you're looking to keep any commons. You don't really need to keep them, but if you do plan on being a clubs player, then I would suggest at least keeping a few. And that more also comes down to preference, because most commons, they'll lose or they'll win. And it basically just depends on what cars you have and what cars you don't have. So, that's my advice for if you're looking into keeping commons. I'm Yellowfin. Let me know if there's any cars I missed out in the comments, because I bet I missed out on a few, because I'm not really a common expert. I do know a lot more about uncommons, so that video will be much more informative tomorrow. But yeah, I'm Yellowfin. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.